Maybe you know. Science meets the questions you never thought to ask. On the night of April 13th, 2016, a security guard at the National Aquarium of New Zealand walked past Tank 7. The lid was slightly open. Inside, where a Pacific octopus named Inky had lived for years, there was nothing. A wet trail led across the floor, down a 50-meter drainpipe, and into Hawke's Bay. No alarms. No struggle. He just left. The staff said later he'd been planning it for weeks. And that wasn't even the strangest thing he'd ever done. For most of human history, the octopus was a monster. Aristotle, writing around 350 BC, called it a stupid creature. Roman naturalists wrote of giant sea devils dragging ships under the waves. Even into the 1980s, marine biologists studying cephalopods would tell you, off the record, that these animals were basically swimming reflexes. A nerve net, a protein computer that ate crabs. You could keep one in a tank, sure, but it didn't have an inner life. It didn't have a mind. Then the tank started getting strange. Pipes would unscrew themselves overnight. Fish would vanish from neighboring aquariums and reappear inside octopus enclosures. One animal at the Seattle Aquarium learned to recognize individual staff members and spray cold water at the one she didn't like. Another, in Munich, kept burning out the overhead lamps. The biologists wrote it off as coincidence. Then they wrote it off as conditioning. By 1991, a Canadian psychologist named Jennifer Mather had seen enough. She started a study that would force the entire scientific community to ask a question they had been avoiding for 2,000 years. What if Aristotle had been completely, catastrophically wrong? In 1992, Mather and her colleague Roland Anderson published a paper that didn't look revolutionary on the surface. It described 8 giant Pacific octopuses kept at the Seattle Aquarium. What it actually did was apply, for the first time, the formal scientific criteria for animal play behavior. To count as play, an action had to be voluntary, repeated, non-functional, and performed in a relaxed state. Most invertebrates couldn't qualify. The octopuses qualified easily. One animal, given an empty pill bottle, would shoot it across the tank with a jet of water, swim after it, and shoot it back, over and over, for 20 minutes. She did this 14 times that month. Anderson started giving them Mr. Potato Head toys, Lego bricks, child-proof medication jars. Each octopus had a personality. Some were curious. Some were aggressive. Some were lazy. One they called Lucretia McEvil would rearrange her entire tank every night just to wreck it. By the end of the decade, Mather had a name for what she was watching. She wasn't studying reflexes anymore. She was studying minds that had nothing in common with our own. Here is where the story breaks the textbook. A human brain runs on about 86 billion neurons, all packed into a single skull. An octopus has roughly 500 million neurons, a respectable number close to that of a dog. But only 1/3 of them live in the central brain, wrapped around the esophagus. The other 2/3 are out in the arms. Each arm contains a long bundle of nerves so dense that biologists describe it as a separate processing center in its own right. The animal is running on something more like a committee than a single mind. Imagine, for a moment, your hands could see. Imagine they could taste the table, decide what to grab, and act before your head knew the plan. Now imagine 8 of them arguing in parallel. In 2001, a neuroscientist named Benjamin Hochner at Hebrew University in Jerusalem severed an octopus arm and placed it in a dish. The arm continued reaching for food. It solved a small maze. It avoided pain. No brain attached. Whatever was thinking inside that limb, it didn't need a head. And the head, apparently, didn't always need to know what the limbs were doing. But here's where it gets genuinely strange. Octopuses are colorblind. Their eyes contain only one type of photoreceptor, the kind that detects shades of gray. And yet, in less than a second, an octopus can match the exact color of a coral, a piece of seaweed, a checkered cloth laid on the tank floor. For decades, this was an unsolved riddle. How do you blend into a world you can't see? In 2015, a team led by Desmond Ramirez and Todd Oakley at the University of California, Santa Barbara, found a clue. They sequenced the genetic material in octopus skin. They found opsins, the same light-sensing proteins that live in human eyes, scattered across the entire body. The skin can detect light. Possibly, in some still-debated way, the skin can sense color too. An octopus does not look at the world only through its eyes. It looks at the world through its whole surface, the way you might feel temperature on your forearm. Its body is one giant, soft retina. When it changes color to match a rock, the rock may not be something it sees. The rock may be something it touches with its skin and becomes. The strangest experimental evidence comes from footage filmed off the coast of Indonesia in 2009. Julian Finn, a marine biologist at the Museum Victoria in Melbourne, was reviewing dive recordings when he noticed something on the seafloor. A small veined octopus had picked up two halves of a discarded coconut shell. It tucked them under its body, climbed on his stilted arms, and walked across the open sand for about 20 meters. When it sensed danger, it pulled the shells together and sealed itself inside a portable bunker. Finn's paper, published in Current Biology, was the first documented case of an invertebrate using a tool, not stumbling on it, not modifying it, carrying it across distance for future use. Then there was Otto. Otto lived at the Sea Star Aquarium in Coburg, Germany, and in 2008, he started taking matters into his own arms. He would climb to the rim of his tank, take aim at the 2,000-watt spotlight above him, and squirt a precise jet of water directly at it. The bulb would short out. The aquarium would go dark. He did this 3 nights in a row before the staff figured out it was him. And just when you think the picture is coming together, the octopus does something that makes it impossible. Try giving one a mirror test, the gold standard of self-awareness. Dolphins pass it. Elephants pass it. Magpies pass it. An octopus, in nearly every trial, ignores the mirror completely. By the old rules of cognitive science, that means no self-awareness. But those rules were built for animals like us. And there is another finding that makes the verdict harder. In 2017, biologists Joshua Rosenthal and Eli Eisenberg analyzed cephalopod RNA, the molecule that carries instructions from genes to cells. In humans, RNA editing happens at maybe a few dozen sites in the brain. In an octopus, it happens at over 60,000 sites. They are, in a literal molecular sense, rewriting their own nervous systems on the fly. They edit their thoughts at the chemical level, in real time, in response to temperature and stress and experience. Whatever it feels like to be an octopus, and this is the part that makes philosophers uneasy, it almost certainly does not feel like being anything else on Earth. We may not be failing to find their minds. They may simply have minds that don't show up in our tests. This is why the philosopher Peter Godfrey Smith, in his 2016 book Other Minds, called the octopus probably the closest we will come to meeting an intelligent alien. Our last common ancestor with an octopus lived around 600 million years ago. It was a flat, worm-like creature about the size of a grain of rice, with almost no brain to speak of. From that single starting point, evolution ran the experiment twice. Once it produced us, vertebrates, mammals, a centralized brain locked inside a bone helmet. Once it produced them, a soft body, distributed thinking, a skin that may see, a self that may not exist in any sense we can recognize. Right now, as you watch this, NASA is searching the icy moons of Europa and Enceladus for signs of life. If they ever find it, the most likely shape of that life is not a humanoid. It is something more like an octopus, pressure-tolerant, decentralized, slow, patient, and unbothered by darkness. We have been looking for alien intelligence in the sky. The cleanest example we will ever have was always swimming beneath us in the dark, watching the divers float past, and probably deciding which of them it would let into its world. Inky was last seen, in any verifiable way, at 11:47 p.m. on that April night in 2016. The wet trail across the aquarium floor was photographed. The drainpipe was inspected. It emptied into Hawke's Bay, into the open Pacific Ocean. He was 3 years old. He did not leave because the tank was cruel. By every measure, the staff had treated him well. He left because something in that distributed mind, sloshing with edited RNA and skin that sees, decided the night was the right night. He had been planning it for weeks. We will never know what he was thinking because we don't have a word in any human language for the kind of thought a creature like that has. And as the staff said later, That wasn't even the strangest thing he'd ever done. If you sat with that one, you should know Earth has another mind almost as strange, but instead of swimming, it dreams. Next week, we follow a single neuron inside the human brain during the moment you fall asleep, and the 8 seconds where, by every measurable definition, you stop existing. Subscribe so you don't miss it. And if you've ever stared into a tide pool and felt something staring back, you weren't imagining it. Thanks for watching. If this sparked a question, drop it in the comments. It might be our next video. We'll see you next time.